Well, a dramatic morning, of course, here in Berlin. We're seeing one of the most prominent politicians on the world stage just confirm what we've been hearing all morning, which is that her future has changed dramatically. And she kind of laid those out in that speech there. And one of the points she made was first about taking responsibility for the election results so far this year. We saw that poor performance from her party or her sister party a couple weeks ago in Bavaria, and then last night again, double-digit blow for her conservatives in the state of Hesse. So she stood up there just now saying, I will take responsibility for this. Something needs to change. That change is going to start at the top. I will not continue to lead my party after December. But then, of course, she also said that she plans to stay on as chancellor. So this sets up kind of a very unusual situation in German politics. And I think it's really not clear right now how sustainable that plan is, whether she'll actually be able to serve out her full term to 2021. And I think a lot of that depends on who the conservatives decide to elect as their leader. Will they elect, as you mentioned there, her sort of appointed successor, Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, known as AKK? If she's elected, that would be a signal that the conservatives at least would probably allow Merkel to continue on as chancellor as she plans to do. But if a Merkel critic were elected, such as the health minister, Jens Spahn, that would set up perhaps an unsustainable situation. We'll see how that plays out. There's also the danger, of course, of her coalition partners, the Social Democrats, who have also been hammered at the polls, pulling out of the Grand Coalition next year, which would likely trigger new elections. So very dramatic events taking place in Germany today.
And you know, it's interesting, Ira, as we spoke a little bit about before, Merkel herself had kind of criticized the idea of not being the CDU party chief, but continuing to serve as chancellor of Germany. She kind of said you can't have it both ways. But now, what, is she going back on her previous stance then?
Yes, she is going back on some of her previous statements, although the point that she made there was that, in her view, this is the best thing for the country. That, and the way I sort of interpret that is that Germany, as it stands right now, would not be ready for that real bombshell announcement that that Merkel was stepping down altogether. That decision on her part will certainly be scrutinized here. Not sure yet how the public will react, but yes, she did go back on her earlier viewpoint. However, that there's nothing to stop her from doing that. I think what really we'll see about the members of her own party, are they still going to be on her side, or now will this tremendous power vacuum that we have in Germany, will that sort of turn the tide against her? We'll see. But one thing I think it is interesting to note here with what Merkel has done is she really does seem to be orchestrating her own exit, so to speak, keeping some suspense here about what she would do, and then announcing this sort of unusual exit, setting the stage perhaps for her to sort of not be blamed for perhaps the end of her government. We'll see how that plays out. Of course, it does depend not just on her, but on her party as well as her coalition partners. The future of Germany very much at stake with what happens here in the next couple months.
Yeah, and as you said, Ira, I mean, it would have come if she just, resigned as chancellor, as a real shock, not just to Germany, but to the European Union in its entirety. She has been such a pivotal figure in the EU for so many years now. But bring us back to why, in spite of her very prominent and influential position in Germany and across the European Union and globally, why has it been going so badly for Merkel and her coalition, and then so well for, the far-right Alternative for Germany party, for example?
Right. Well, I think you can largely trace Merkel's problems back to 2015, to her decision to leave Germany's borders open to allow the influx of over 1 million people, refugees, over a period of a couple years into the country. That, of course, prompted a tremendous backlash here, really opened the door for the far-right AfD party to emerge on the national scene. After the elections in Hesse, they are now part of all of Germany's state parliaments, generally polling well above 10% nationally. So the AfD has certainly seen their stock rise as a result of Merkel's refugee policies. At the same time, the sheer ineffectiveness of the grand coalition that she's entered into with the Social Democrats over the past year. There's been lots of infighting, lots of scandals that in previous years wouldn't have really even registered on the radar. But because of the weakness and the skepticism from voters towards this uneasy grand coalition, we've just seen German voters defecting in droves to smaller parties. Of course, the AfD, the far-right party, has really shaken up national politics. The center-left Green parties have suddenly emerged as this major force once again nationally. They're polling close to 20%, eclipsing the Social Democrats, who saw their fortunes fall because of the grand coalition. So as Merkel said there in her speech, someone has to take accountability for this, and it would be unusual to not see some sort of change after the electoral performance of her party as well as the Social Democrats so far this year.